Good evening, good day, or good morning, wherever you are. Before we start with the interview, I would just like to point out a few things. Firstly, if you're interested about the game, you can check more about it in the description down below. Secondly, I would like to thank Sura for contacting me and for discussing more about her game. Also, if you're the type of person that prefers more written format, you can read the transcript that will be posted on the website. The link will also be down below. And without further ado, please enjoy the interview. I would like to start with getting to know Oragutan Matter better, like your studio in general. I would
Sure,
like
yeah.
to know, like, what's the idea behind the name? When was it established, and what's the goal behind it? Like, what's the goal of the studio?
Okay, yeah, that sounds really good. Yeah, I'm Sura. I'm here in my Toronto-based indie studio, and we that's where we made most of Unleaving, basically. I'm the co-founder, my husband as well. We're husband and wife, and
Mm-hmm.
we both run the studio. And we co-founded the studio. It actually started in Manchester, in England, but we moved to make Unleaving in Toronto here. It started, I would say, there was like different phases of the studio, but it was officially registered, and we've worked full time at. I think it was exactly February
Mm-hmm.
2021. So it's been exactly 3 years. But before that, it was a prototype phase, and also we were working in our house in England, like for 2 3 years, just to kind of get the idea, get it together, and everything. Myself, I worked for BBC as a software engineer, and my husband was a pharmacist. So completely like kind of different
Mm-hmm.
backgrounds, but we have this passion for art and games, and we just see video games as a cultural medium. Like it's a medium where you can
Mm-hmm.
express stories, and we like each one of us like had different kind of bringing something different. But for me personally, I always wanted more art in games, and I love games like Braid, like Limbo, and even like growing up, I played like the classic games of like Sonic, Mario, and like different ones, and in a very simplified way. And I always imagine like, what if I can make like a painting and I can play it? And it's just like I had a vision in my mind like that. So obviously, like I brought this vision to life in Orangutan Matter, and where we can make literal paintings as a video game, like that's a painting, for example.
Well, okay, that's good. Looks great. Looks great.
Yeah, and it's just like expressing the like we like to basically tell human emotions, like a lot of human emotion, which can be expressed in paintings. Yeah, I hope
So,
that question. Yeah.
yeah. So let me try to guess this. You are the artist of. Are you the artist who made the paintings, and your husband is a developer, or how does it work?
Well, you can say like both of us, we wear different hats all the time. I'm myself because I'm an engineer as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm by trade. I'm a software engineer. I was a software engineer at the BBC when I left it to do this full time. I've trained and studied and everything computer science. So and at the same time, all my life I practice art. All my life, like all of it. So it was both of us, like we did both really. We did like he did art direction with me. I did art direction most of the time. He did most of the development. I did some of the development, but I was involved in every engineering decision. So we did both of it. Both of us, we did almost like kind of everything together, but mostly art direction went to me myself. And also I have three other artists that work with me as a collaborators.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mhm.
So what about the music, for example? Like, how many people actually in total worked on Leaving?
On Unleaving, it was around it like with different collaborators at different time, but the core team, me and my husband were two. That's the
Mhm.
core team, and the collaborators were seven of them. They come in going at a different time, which they contribute to the creation of Unleaving, from the character art, environment art, level design, development, technical decisions, and also music as well. Like you asked about the music. The music we used tracked from an artist, musician called Elisha Enstrom.
Mhm.
And yeah, and there's so like there are different layers, but just to answer your question, it's like around seven or
So,
yes, eight. Yeah.
so how long did it take you to create the game? Like, what actually inspired the concept of Unleaving?
What inspired us to? Sorry, what?
the concept of Unleaving, like the
The
integration
concept.
of poetry, visual art, and into making it as a puzzle platformer game.
The inspiration, yes. The inspiration, I mentioned a little bit just previously in the previous question. It just came from really love for and passion for art and games. And also telling stories of vulnerability and the raw human emotions through the video game medium, because I believe video games medium is can be like I'm pushing it just to be more cultural medium. Like there's so many beautiful games that tell very powerful stories, and I want to contribute more to that. And the inspiration came from love for arts and like visiting art galleries, for example, especially like moments in England when I visited like some big amazing paintings like by Turner, one of the inspiration for the art style, and just feeling the emotions. That's like the artistically one of the moments. And also just when you visit an art gallery, kind of you're always you have kind of the permission to make your own interpretation. Like you can look at an art with like one sentence, like one thing about the art piece itself. And then you as a visitor, you can just say, oh, I imagine this can be about this, it can be about that. And we're so open in the art world to talk about the meaning. But in games, I see a little bit like you're a little bit limited in a way. And you kind of, there is like one way of to interpret things. And we wanted to bring that experience of art gallery to video games. Like there's in Unleaving, there is like a minimal storytelling. It's almost like a title or something, and then the player is invited to give it its own meaning. So that's one of the key inspiration of making Unleaving, that kind of feeling of inviting the player to make their own meaning and just to share it. And there's no other, like there's no two players gave the same meaning of the game. Each one seeing it differently because it's an introspection, it's self-reflection. And for inspiration of video game style of Limbo is like huge inspiration for the mechanics and just the eerie style, and the child and Limbo. It's a game that really inspired us.
So how long did it actually take you to create the game? How long were you developing it?
The game it took about the production itself took 3 years, but before that there was like a few years of prototyping and just researching and different that. But yeah, development itself it took 3 years, but I wouldn't say it's the usual 3 years of it was very intense, very I have to admit it was obsession. It was not normal. Because you know, when you're so involved in something, we like some days worked just some ridiculous hours. It was not like something because we're forced to do so, but it was a conscious choice. Like I would paint, I'm not sure how many paintings, like I would just create so many, and then I would just lose in touch time, like, and I just wake up 5 a.m., 4 a.m. And just paint and or like develop or just doing things. So I would say it's 3 years, but maybe if you expand the normal people how they work, it'd be maybe like 7 years. I don't know, but yeah, it's 3 years.
How are you finding like
3 years of obsession.
inspirations?
Mhm.
Sorry, how are you finding inspirations for your paintings? Like, what kept you going all this time?
What kept me going all the time? Just the passion and commitment to create, really, to share that creation with others as well. Yeah, I don't think like most of the game devs is the same thing. There's just that passion to tell stories and just to share it with others. Just like any other person, like with, but yeah, just like any other game dev, the passion and commitment to do something. Yeah.
Well, since you already mentioned storytelling before, I'm kind of curious about the game's name, Unleaving. What does it actually mean? Does it have like some connection with the Hopkins poem that you already mentioned before in the Steam store page?
Originally, the game was called Jack. just to we just want to give the character a name, any name really, any common name, because it's a story of everyone. Like it's anyone can be that child. So we just want to give it any common name. But then as the story matured, as we were growing with development, we decided to change the name to be more reflective, as we didn't want to give it a name just so it can be an extension of any player. And just to say all at the same time, this character, it can be anyone. It cannot be like there's no specific story behind it, but it's more like a self-reflection. And then when we came across the poem, it was really, it resonated with the story. It resonated with everything we wanted to do, because it's talking about the transient meaning of life. And that's kind of the story of leaving. It's just you're coming to face the transient meaning of life, the uncertainty, and some questions about mortality and different things. And it just really resonated. And we took the part on leaving. That's the most interesting for us about the game. And there's the bit about the child in the poems called Margaret. So it felt like talking to a child, or getting to things from a perspective of a child, is actually really resonated with Unleaving. As you see, the protagonist is a child, and the child, it can be a metaphor, it can be the inner child. Yeah.
So since we're talking about it, the game has a lot of symbols, right? Like those
Yes, very
symbols
much.
that we can all interpret by ourselves. But I'm kind of curious about the wolf symbol. We can see it through the entire game, right? And how did you come up with that idea with the wolf?
Yeah, that's a very good question. The wolves actually came from us coming. My husband Saifi came across a book in his when he was visiting his cousin, and it was a painting by Francis Goya. And if you're familiar with the Francis Goya, he's a classic master of art, and the painting was very expressive itself, and the dog can be seen in so many different ways, and that was like the kind of the inspiration of the wolf. But also, so the wolf can be seen as any, like it can be very deep, and depends on everyone how they want to see it. Some people call it like inner fear, some just said it's my shadow self, and everyone kind of, they name it differently. And we encourage that. We encourage people just to introspect and just self-reflect what that means to them. Yeah.
What I want to know, for the most part, when I was playing the game, is how did you manage to incorporate everything into the game, like from the art, from the music? How did you develop, if you know what I mean, develop the game? What engine did you use to do it, if you used any?
Yeah, the engine. Yeah, is this like more like, you want me to get more into the technical aspect of the game?
Yes,
The more
exactly.
technical aspect. Yeah, definitely. I will. Yeah, I mean, it was like a process of trials and errors. I wouldn't say errors, there's such a defined word, and it's a process of trials and learning. I think trials and learning. Sorry, am I speaking too fast, or?
No, you're not. You're completely fine. Don't worry. Don't worry.
Okay.
Don't
Because
worry.
when I talk about the game, I can get
It's all
carried away.
right. You're completely fine. Don't worry. Don't worry.
Just want to
It's
make
fine.
sure the pace is okay. Yeah, so it came from trials, a lot of trials, and because the game is very atmospheric, it's like there's paintings and all of it, but at the same time, it's a puzzle platformer. And there is like the pencil art that's very detailed. So we wanted to marry the two, the very atmospheric, chaotic environment with the very precise details of and give emphasis on the elements of a puzzle platformer, because puzzle platformer, there's that precise element, that kind of almost clear cut of the ground. We want to like bring the two. And for us, like Unity, we explored other engines. Obviously, there's so many engines out there, and including like making our own engine. But we then settled on a Unity, because there's like, the C# element of it, where you can make things very precise, and it's also physics-based, so it worked very well. A lot of C# coding, a lot of yeah, Unity is just like, it was really good engine for us just to be very precise and just to give, you can code really what you want and just to be exact. And also Unity helped us to, decipher take the paintings and just kind of slice them in a way that the process of making things, we make paintings and then we go through a process of remaking them again for Unity. So again, you can put them back together like a Lego pieces in Unity, and Unity just worked very well for that reason. Yeah.
I was also wondering about animations. I personally really like the animations that were in the game. So how did you do that? Like, how did you make those animations as pictures?
Yes, the animation, there's different part of the animation of the game. I think with the ones that we talked a lot about is, we call it painting animation, which can have different names and different in different places, but for us we call it naming animation, where you have moments when you have one background and then something happens and then the background completely changed to something else, or moments where you have background and then kind of you see subtle changes. So that's called painting animation, when you capture one frame of the painting and then you can capture other frames, like other versions of that painting. It's really happened just by scanning number of versions of that painting. So I would, let's say, make part of it, scan it, make some brush stroke, then scan it again, and then it just the accumulation of scanning of these images that will make it the painting animation. So that's mostly for the backgrounds. For the ground is the same thing. Like you would take a part of the ground and then take a scan, like we take a scan of it and then add some brush strokes, scan them, and then you just, by end of the day, you loop between these kind of different scans, and that will make it feel like alive and breathing, almost like a breathing painting in a way. Yeah.
So did you firstly had like a puzzle, or did you have a painting first? Like how did that work?
Yeah, yes, it's that's a very, very good question. First we again, like it's very, Unleaving leans a lot on art and painting, but it's a video game first. It's a video game, and video game rules dictated everything, like the puzzle elements, the and following the guide, following the principles of level design. Let's say having clear goal, having consistency, and making sure that all the interactive elements look the same. That dictated anything else in the game. Dictated the art style, and it just limited the art style in a way. So the puzzle elements were there first, but always we start with emotions. Just back off a little bit. Everything started with the story, with the emotions, like what emotions we want to capture. Let's say it's a scene, and there's the warmth of a sun where the character chases a cicada, and there's like a very warm sun, and what's the feeling we want to capture, what emotions we want to capture, and from that emotions then we start choosing the puzzle type, we choose the colors and the painting. So everything starts with emotions, puzzle elements or puzzle type, then we'll do the arts, but emotions first, and yeah, the puzzle would dictate the art style and the art.
So does it also mean, because we have different specific themes in the game, from like, I don't know, meadows to like something modern. Did you also have that in mind when creating puzzles? Like, if you know what I mean.
Sorry, can you repeat that question?
We have like those different themes in the game, right? Like, for you go from something more colorful to something more modern. Did you also have in mind when you were creating puzzles that you wanted to have something specific for that? Like, for example, if you wanted to have a specific puzzle just for that theme.
Yeah, yes and no, because I mean, yes, if it's to capture certain emotions, if it's let's say about a certain theme, then we'll definitely lean on certain kind of puzzles, and from that puzzle we'll pick the arts, like everything will come after that. It's yes, so it's in a way you're right. Yes, it's about the theme, and but also at the same time it's about the overall game theme as well, and not just one specific theme. So you have to be specific about the certain place, but at the same time you have to kind of go back and check if it's going to work with everything else. And sometimes the sequence may not work, so to kind of revisit that decision and just make sure it just works everywhere else as well. It makes sense. Yeah.
What kind of impressions did you get from people and players in general when it comes to puzzles? I mean, I personally, I think some of them were pretty difficult, and you can't really obviously satisfy everyone, right? But did you have in mind just to make some puzzles more difficult than the other and so more time-based? Like if you have to press a button on a certain time, did you also have that in mind?
Yeah. Can I ask you as well before I answer you, like when you say difficult, what aspect of difficulty yourself you've experienced?
I'm you probably know about the level where there is bison chasing you, and then
Yes.
you're going
Yeah.
around in a circle. I think that was, for me, that was kind of really difficult because it took me some tries and some
Yes.
times to
The
just get
trial
to used
aspect.
to it. Yeah, exactly what you said before. But for the most part, I found some puzzles just to be very good, like some interesting puzzles. Like you probably don't see them usually, but maybe that aspect of time that you have to perfectly press on
Yeah.
certain time. Did you
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
get that impression from other players, people, or?
Yes, you're right. I mean, yeah, thank you for sharing your insights. Yeah, I wanted to hear which
Mhm.
part to kind of focus on. So yeah, the aspect of trials came from because it's kind of a game about self-reflection and like just life in general. And the aspect of trial is kind of a very known theme in life, just in the aspect of trial and error. And that's we've seen in Limbo as well, that we love so much and we wanted to incorporate. And I understand there's like the other layer of it, which is like timing and making things like kind of come together in a certain sequence. Uh, for example, with you mentioned the bison, you can approach it like you can approach it this way, like it's just a game like with timing, or you can approach it as like coming with the expectation this game is going to be difficult, this game is going to be has trials, and coming from a place of coming it has timing, then maybe it will be a little bit less frustrating. But if you come from it like just looking at it as a pure game with no kind of story behind it, maybe you'll find it a little bit more challenging. So it depends on the player. What's obviously it's their experience. They're free just to take it from whatever aspect they would like to take it. But yeah, I'm aware of it that we hear like comments saying like the timing, the timing of the game is not that easy. It's like it needs to be precise, and that's something, yeah, I'm already like aware of it. So I heard that, and also we heard that the player saying like coming from the expectation, knowing that will be like that, then they felt like not surprised and kind of almost like ready for the experience that will be like that. So yeah, every player is different. They can approach it in however way they want it. It's their own experience. And we heard so many different things about the game. And that what makes us as creators very happy, because there is no negative or positive way of looking at the game. There is their own experience in the game, if that makes any sense. So they can just sharing that experience is what excites us as creators, because just people approaching it differently, seeing it differently from their own perspective without us as creators imposing any kind of interpretation.
Can you maybe show us some? Do you have maybe some paints or pictures at your disposal right now where you were creating those?
I'll show you. Yeah, so it's good in, like Probably I have not shown this before. That's something I want to do in the future, but here you go. You're going to be the first to see it.
Okay, thank you.
You've probably, if you've seen the credit scene, this will look very familiar to you. But everything in Unleaving is just hand painted and drawn, including the storyboarding. Like when we make storyboarding, even when we talk about the most little thing, everything is hand painted and drawn. So I'm just going to show you the storyboard, like how it
Sure,
looks.
thank you.
Yeah, so that's.
Oh, wow.
That's here, like everything is in the game, and also there is behind me, there is the color palette of Unleaving. Yeah. So that's the color palette that we, it was like, I think it was changed so many number of times, but at the end it kind of settled on this one, which is most of the colors that we use throughout the game. Yeah. I have more, and also there was the other day I did live streaming of painting, make a painting of a scene of Unleaving, and then the painting is going to the winner of, there's a contest of like all the players that share screenshots, and then we just randomly selected one, and then this painting, I'm going to ship it to the winner, which I've contacted. I'm just waiting for the response.
Oh, wow.
Also, I have some interactive, because I group things, like I have some collection from interactive elements. So like I have this one, which is probably you've seen before, like where you kind of use
Grab, yeah, grab.
lines, and yeah, this is only like one thing. Each each one has like a different variation of them, but that's one of them. Let's see what else I have. Yeah, like maybe this one is not very shown clearly, but it's very dark. But it's like this is one of the I think it's waiting like loading screen or something like that. Like it's just slightly wait. So literally everything is a painting. I have piles and piles of them. But sometimes I just put them back and and just look at them every once in a while.
So what were your expectations when you released the game on Steam? Did you expect to get some certain like positive reviews, negative reviews? What were your expectations?
Sorry, photo. Yeah, I would say I just like any creator, you have you hope for the best, right? But just embracing the spirit of Unleaving, which is kind of letting go a little bit of control, letting go of expectations. I had to approach the release the same way. Like I think my biggest hope was just for people to connect on a deeper level, and to make their own meaning out of the game, and just to say like I experienced this and experiences. I wouldn't treat maybe that way as well. Like it helped me. It not helped us in any way, but it's just approaching reviews, or approaching how people's perception in a way that's not associated in a negative or a positive way. There's no, for me, like there's no negative or positive. There's only, I know the way Steam works, like there's either positive or negative. And I know like even people mentioned when they were leaving reviews, some of them, they didn't want to like leave one or the other. They just want to talk about their experience. And maybe that's something we hope it will exist in Steam and other platforms in the future. Players can just share their own experience without kind of putting them or black or white, negative or positive. There is something as like you experience something the way you seen it, and you just want to share that. And that's really the kind of the game is about that. It's just approaching things, learning about approaching things from a different perspective, and just being curious. So as creators, I have to adapt kind of the same mentality, and actually it became more of my personal habits as I was developing the game, just to always kind of detach from judging things or as good or bad, and just look at things as a learning experiences. So there's a lot of different reviews, different opinions, and that what really makes me very happy as creator, like just seeing how many different perceptions, and also just people were very open to say, I felt this way, without feeling there is some kind of judgment that they've seen things differently from someone else. And that's what we wanted as creators, just so to see people like connecting on a deeper level, and just they're willing to say they enjoyed like the art aspect and they connected with it. At the same time, they would willing to say how they experience other parts, and not labeling them as bad or good, labeling them as just no label. It's an experience and that's it. So that's I would say that was what I was hoping for, and that's what happened as well.
Can you maybe share how many people wishlisted it?
I feel like I've been talking about this maybe for the whole theme of Unleaving is kind of it's about just being open to, and also kind of there's always the status quo, and there's always the expectation. There's everything is kind of measured. But then the game is not about that. It's not about measurement. It's not about kind of fitting in a box. And that's what everyone kind of what we're faced with every day. We're faced with like, what is success? Is it black or white? Or what is like a negative or positive, or this or that? But in reality, Unleaving is very gray. And the people that's our aim, that people will take that from Unleaving, just being embracing the kind of embracing the unknown, and also just embracing that, and not everything can be quantified and listed and known. So for me, it's against everything. I know, like, that's what we always talk about, like how much do you sell, what's the wish list, but I did not even approach it as a creator from that perspective. So I wouldn't encourage like the sharing of information. Like I wouldn't even look at it for myself. I wouldn't like keep checking it myself, because I didn't approach the game from perspective of quantifying success in any way, quantifying failure. For me, there's no failure or success. It's all an experience, and we're here not to label it, but to experience it.
I also saw that you went to some live events. I think, was it PAX East or something, if I'm not mistaken. How was the experience there?
But PAX East, yes, I've done a live event yesterday online. That's where I made the painting for the winner. Sorry, of screenshot contest, and also I have another live event in Toronto Art Battle in Tuesday, to the 24th of April. PAX East was it was an amazing experience, because again, like I had no expectation when I was going, but I was going after connecting with players. And it was for us as like a small studio, it impacted us hugely, because it was COVID and we were isolated, and we were just working a lot, kind of not seeing a lot of people, not seeing a lot of game developers, not seeing a lot of players. And then when we went to PAX East, it just impacted us a lot. And when like when I did the live painting, and I think according to PAX East, it was never done before. That was the first time anyone can do like live painting during the event. It was another layer we wanted to just test and see how players respond to it. So what I did, I went with the intention just to make live painting by myself. But then as players were approaching the booth, they were so interested just to be part of the experience. So that's why like I have to kind of step back myself and open live painting for players themselves. And I gave them the same color palette, the same material that I would use to create Unleaving, and I guided them on like some principles on how I would make the game, and they just follow kind of the same guidelines, but they added their own touch to it, and we captured different frames from different players, and by end of the day, it just looked like an animated painting done by players themselves, and which was like mind-blowing, like just to see. And also the players themselves, as they were live painting, some of them, they added some touches that it confirmed what we want to do in the game itself.
I was also going to ask about some future projects. Can we expect like similar games from you, or you're gonna try something else? What do you like have in mind?
Oh, I like your question, and I'm still figuring out the answer to it. But I would say definitely it'll be something artistic. It'll be something about telling a story. I can't say obviously like about if it's going to be a puzzle platformer or not. It's for me like it's my favorite kind of genres, but maybe there's a room to experience as well and explore other things.
What kind of advices would you give to others based on your experience?
Um, I think oh, that question gives me shivers. Thank you for asking that. I would definitely say to lose the fear of judgment as soon as you can, because if you remove that, you're so free to be creative. You're so free to make amazing things and make your vision come into life. Assuming that the others will also support you and help you and find the believers, like so many believers. And I believe the gaming community has been a huge part of my journey myself. As I mentioned, PAX East was one of them, and also just being COVID, being online, talking to other game devs, talking to players. It's been for me, like personally, it's just been felt very supportive, and I encourage people just to trust more like their community because they'll see wonderful things. So trusting community, maybe that's what I would say.